Thank you for coming here. I start all of my conversations about OneWeb with this: enable affordable access for everyone. That's why we're here. That's our mission. And it's important that we keep true north on our compass at all times. In order to build the system, we've had to put together an incredible team. We have put together an incredible team that allows us to have each of the key elements in place. And today, what we hope to do is to demonstrate to you that each of these key elements are in place and that we have an ability to execute on a model and a plan to help enable affordable access in 2019. You have spectrum, you have funding, chip technology, satellite manufacturing, launch, and then markets. The broad pieces of the puzzle to build a system of this size and scale. Today we announced that we have $500 million of funding, which is what we sought to raise several months ago when we sat and talked about what we needed. We're very fortunate to have the excitement from everyone we talked with, and the support. We announced today also launch contracts, the largest launch contract ever, I believe, and including both Virgin Galactic and the Arianespace, Soyuz and Ariane 6. We have 21 Soyuz through 2019, which is the backbone of the launch industry. Over 2,000 launches and one of the most reliable vehicles ever built. So if we think about our mission and we think about what we're accomplishing, and you'll hear from our partners and supporters, an indicator of success is ensuring connectivity for everyone. An indicator of success that we talk about is connecting the schools. How do you bring connectivity to schools that have no infrastructure? How do you enable it so that someone can install a terminal themselves with no tools? Solar powered. That when you place on top of the roof, it provides LTE, Wi-Fi, 3G, and 2G connectivity to the surrounding area. And blend that in so that any user of any mobile phone company can roam onto it using their current prepaid and postpaid packages. We integrate into the mobile operators. They are doing such a fantastic job of bringing access to the world. We're helping them reach further and further into the rural markets. This is the challenge for them. The technology today is too expensive to get into the rural markets. Governments recognize the importance of connectivity, how it enables economic freedom, local prosperity, and is a key point for ending extreme poverty. But the operators don't have the tools, and the governments are pushing appropriately because of the importance. But today we're announcing a tool which will allow them, all the operators, to bring their connectivity into the rural markets in an economically efficient manner. And a key point here for us is that the reason we wanted to bring this out today is to allow governments to see how real we were, to make their own assessment of the confidence in our system, and to consider our system and its impact when they think about bringing rural technologies out to the marketplace. The UK has been a great supporter. It has its own rural broadband challenge, as does pretty much every other country of the world. The cities have cable and fiber because the houses are close together. And as the houses move farther apart, it becomes more and more expensive per home to connect. So think of this as a technology to connect those homes. So all of my conversations with partners always start with this mission, so we know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the excitement from our partners individually and from their companies and from the people in their companies have come together to build a system that we think can make a real impact on one of the biggest problems for humanity. So I'll introduce first Tom Enders from Airbus. Airbus, as you know, is a large manufacturer of commercial aircraft and an incredible manufacturer of satellites. Tom.
Thank you. You sit here or get up there? That's okay. Okay, stand up. Follow me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me first say at Airbus we are, of course, very excited to be part of this great endeavor here. I think, Craig, our teams first met some 10 months ago. We first contacted each other in November last year. And almost immediately we said, this is something we need to be part of because this is really exciting. If you know a little bit about the history of Airbus, Richard knows it very well. We're a company that thrives on innovation. That is what made us successful, what made us one of the premier aeronautic and space and defense companies in the world. So that very innovative core of this project here, plus the ability to do good also, to make lives better, to advance innovation, but at the same time to contribute to what you just presented, to the poorest and not connected in the world. Well, we got excited. What did we do? You know, we're a company of 140,000 people, tens of thousands of engineers in aeronautics, in space. We are today one of the leading space companies in satellites and in launches. Well, we brought the best of our engineers and minds together. We basically stuck them in a little place in the south of France, in Toulouse. We brought people from the UK, from other parts of the company. Not only the space people, we brought also the commercial aeronautic people because, you know, space people, how many satellites do we launch so far? 10, 12, 15 a year. In commercial aircraft, however, we are currently delivering more than 600 aircraft a year. So where do we get the expertise for industrialization, for producing, delivering hundreds of satellites? And my company is quite obvious. It's the commercial aircraft guys. So we took some of these commercial aircraft guys who have the state-of-the-art knowledge, fused them, merged them with the space guys, and no surprise, they came, I think, with good solutions that eventually convinced a very knowledgeable space guy. I mean, he is in all the details. You can grill him a little bit later here. Wasn't easy to get that, but I think at the end we made a convincing proposition to build the satellites. But it's not just building the satellites. I'd like to emphasize again, we find that that is a project of the new space age. I think we all feel that space is getting more important again. There are numerous endeavors, and this is one of the most important ones. So to end this, we got only 2 minutes. I think I'm already 3 or 4. Just to say, we are committed to make this project a big success. We will contribute all our industrial, all our space knowledge, and our teams, as you know, are very excited to start it. Thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks, Tom. You can see the enthusiasm as I talked about. It's really, it's wonderful to see people and companies that have so much look at this for the impact and the mission, as well as the possibilities of return on investment. I want to introduce you to Sunil Matau, who is a founder of the 4th largest telecom in the world. When people talk about bringing internet access into rural regions, Sunil has over 300 million customers in India and across Africa. We're talking about somebody who understands the challenges of the rural topologies, who understands working with governments to try to get connectivity further and further into those areas. So we're really pleased to have him as a partner on the market side. And introduce Sunil.
Thank you, Greg. A very good morning or afternoon to all of you. I'm personally very excited to be a part of this founding group on an initiative which is so dear to me personally. Many years back, way back 93, 94, I was one of the persons who put out his neck and said, Iridium will fail. I come from the terrestrial networks. Technology was taking shape. Common standards were being put together by people like Paul here. Roaming was moving very fast across the globe. And I said the technology which had such long latency and clunky terminals didn't have much future. And we all know that what turned out to be the future for Iridium or the follow-on Global Star. Today I'm willing to put my neck again on the line to say, this one is a game changer. And nobody knows it better than me who goes out into the rural areas, deep forests in Africa, Himalayas, where it's almost an impossibility for me to connect those last few 100 million people. Incidentally, Airtel's mobile network is one of the largest networks after China, which goes really deep into rural areas. And I say this with utmost degree of confidence that this particular project, OneWeb, will mitigate the problems that we are facing in connecting the rural areas, the most difficult areas, connecting those last few 100 million people onto the broadband networks. And I know for countries like India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Africa, it is almost absolutely essential because there is no other infrastructure to deal with these, the last remaining population. The only way to do is through satellite communications, through providing them very, very good broadband connectivity. And the exciting part of this project is it is going to be ubiquitous. There are 648 satellites. It is not going to be having any difficulty in terms of accessing those difficult areas. Importantly, with the technology and innovation, it'll be affordable, it'll be low cost, and finally, the most important thing from my point of view, it will work on the same terminals. 3GPP handsets that you have in your hands, 4G handsets, they'll be working on this particular technology. We drop in a box, you've seen some pictures here. Let's say we drop it in a school in a village. We create a coverage zone in that area. The village is connected, the people around that school are connected with the regular 3GPP and 4G phones, and they are fully connected back into the world of internet. They can do all things that are required. Government can deliver them services, subsidies, payments, everything is possible. I'm truly very excited. I just can't wait for this project to be launched in commercial service in 2019. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunil. That's, again, it's just humbling to have such leaders of industry and visionaries come together around something like this and the mission that started a few years ago and really came together with the support of the UK with our regulatory work and pulling together the spectrum that the ITU had set aside specifically for this type of a mission and unlocking that spectrum with some technology that we developed. It's really exciting. And I think to take it a step further, people talk about satellites, and satellites are an interesting and cool part of what we're doing, but we're really building a global communication system. The key technologies are actually not in the sky, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is way larger than just building satellites and launching them. It's about enabling the mobile operators of the world to extend themselves into those markets and enabling broadband to be brought in from the sky as opposed to just through cables that are expensive to lay over long distances. Another leader, EchoStar and Hughes, are the largest broadband to the home satellite operators in the world. They have over 4.5 million terminals that they've installed globally. They are helping us on the ground segment. They're helping us on the distribution and marketing as a customer as we sell wholesale to bring this into many markets. Pradman Cole, the CEO, couldn't be here, but Dean is here to say a few remarks.
Thank you, Greg. My name is Dean Manson. I'm General Counsel of Hughes Network Systems and its parent company, EchoStar Corporation. Pradman Cole, president of Hughes, wasn't able to be here today, but I wanted to say on his behalf and on behalf of Hughes just how proud and excited we are to be associated with and partnering with OneWeb and these other respected companies in bringing affordable broadband to everyone. In addition to the financial investment being made by Hughes' parent company, EchoStar, Hughes is going to play a particularly important role in OneWeb by designing, developing, and manufacturing OneWeb's ground system, including its gateways and terminals, and will employ the OneWeb network to deliver services to our global base of customers and distribution partners. This fits well with Hughes' vision. Hughes has long pursued a vision of closing the digital divide, shipping the first VSAT in 1986, and then playing a key role in launching the commercial satellite industry. Hughes later launched the satellite internet market in 1996, bringing affordable broadband by satellite to customers who previously had no internet access or only dial-up. Today, with our high-throughput Jupiter system providing our market-leading HughesNet high-speed internet service, Hughes serves over 1 million subscribers in North America and provides the engine behind many of the world's most successful satellite companies. Now, together with OneWeb and this impressive group of companies, Hughes is excited about supercharging that vision by closing the broadband divide on a fully global basis. OneWeb's LEO system will nicely complement Hughes' existing GEO system by enabling us to serve customers with the best possible technology for the applications they desire. In summary, through our technology partnership with OneWeb, through our service businesses in the US, Europe, Brazil, and India, through our worldwide base of customers and distribution partners, and most importantly, through our passion for bringing the excitement of broadband to the world, Hughes looks forward to working with OneWeb to accelerate the adoption of broadband by people and businesses everywhere. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. It's just fantastic, and to have Hughes' involvement, and they're as a leader in broadband to the home. And I'll mention something. Coca-Cola. Muhtar Kent couldn't be here today. He had a previous engagement, but Coca-Cola has been a fantastic supporter as well. And Coca-Cola has a 5x20 program where they're empowering 5 million women by 2020. Coca-Cola has 25 million resellers around the world that they restock on a continuous basis. In the furthest and most rural divides, the furthest islands of Indonesia or Fiji or in Papua New Guinea, they know how to bring product, and they know what the people need, and they're there to support it. And so I want to thank Coca-Cola for their support in this mission. Intelsat's a name many of you are familiar with from the satellite industry. It's the world's largest fleet operator. They've been bringing connectivity for a lot longer than I've been born, I think, so before I was born. But Intelsat looked at this and again came to the same conclusion. So I'm going to introduce Steve Spangler and thank you for the support and the investment and the partnership.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Intelsat, we're absolutely thrilled to be here. We're thrilled to be at this event. And Greg, we have to thank you for your visionary leadership. We wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't all be together as partners without you bringing us together. So thank you for that. Greg introduced Intelsat a little bit, and for those that don't know us, if you're using a Wi-Fi on an airplane, you're watching sports or news on television, if you're using Facebook on a cruise ship, you're likely to be using our services around the globe. And as Greg said, we're the leading commercial satellite operator in the world. We have more GEO satellites in orbit than any other company in history. And our global network connects 99% of the world's population. And this is something that's very critical and important to our employees as we bring people around the world that type of connectivity that transforms their lives. So given the business we're in, why are we looking at investing? Why are we investing in OneWeb? Why are we partnering with OneWeb? Well, it comes down to something pretty simple. We do believe in challenging the status quo to drive new services and create new value for customers and end users alike. And I think we have a common philosophy between Intelsat and OneWeb and our partners in this regard. We share OneWeb's vision of the world population being connected with reliable communications, which has profound effect on connectivity and economic and social development. We also share a passion for technological innovation. We see the opportunity for so many synergies from our OneWeb alliance and its planned interoperability with the next generation Intelsat satellite fleet. This will be the first time that a GEO and a LEO satellite fleet will be integrated from a service standpoint, which is truly revolutionary. Our investments in access hardware and the broader telecom ecosystem. Greg talked about this. This is really important as we bring new ideas, new technologies, new standards into the interoperable world that we will have, where we'll be able to connect customers pole to pole on a seamless basis, really for unequaled enterprise communications. And most importantly, we share a passion for delivering high-value services for our customers. As we develop new services featuring the shared architecture, our customers will enjoy higher performance, improved economics, and simplified access, which is so critical to expanding these types of services on a global basis. So, at Intelsat, we share Greg's passion to deliver a connected world. Our partnership will deliver great value for communities and businesses alike, and we really look forward to taking this extraordinary path together. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. That's just wonderful to see the Intelsat, the beginner who began satellites back in as a government company in the 50s, I think it was. 64. 64. Yeah. Again, for me, but fantastic. Satellites are obviously a big and important part of the system, but if you asked me what was the single hardest thing to do, I'd say it's the chips in the user terminal. The ability to hand over thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of customers seamlessly, continuously, every second, moving 50 megabit chunks of data and streams from one satellite to another satellite, doing that continuously, meeting all the regulatory requirements, making sure that as you outbound from the terminal to the handset, you meet all 3GPP compatibilities, so every handset, every tablet, every computer works. That is an enormous challenge, and it just defines the performance that we'll be able to achieve on our system. So we're really fortunate to have Qualcomm and Paul Jacobs, who's been there since the beginning, cheering this on, cheering the mission on as one of our founding partners, and they're 40 or 50,000 employees, and he'll tell you a little bit more about Qualcomm, but you all use Qualcomm technologies. It's in all your pockets right now, and they've really been the leader in setting the standards for the mobile phone industry. Paul.
So probably you've heard tech companies get up and say their technology is going to change the world. It's like almost become a joke. There's a Silicon Valley, or a show on HBO, Silicon Valley, where every guy that gets up to give a pitch says, oh, this technology and some obscure thing changed the world. This is no joke. This is a global system, and this global system will absolutely change the world. And we've already done a lot. We've taken the cellular systems and brought mobile broadband all around the world. It's humanity's biggest platform. So many people use it everywhere. But maybe I shouldn't say everywhere, because there are those places in the world that are underserved or unserved. And the vision here with OneWeb is to fill that gap, to make sure that there literally is no one in the world who can't have access to the internet, to connectivity, to education, to healthcare, to all the kinds of things that connectivity brings, that we've already seen happen with cellular communications and mobile broadband. And we've had this vision for a long time. Back in the early 90s, we put the internet protocols onto cellular systems back before people even knew what they wanted to use the internet for. We had been a company that had been early on in internet, and we saw the opportunity, and we believed that the wireless internet was going to have a bigger, a more profound impact on the world than the wired internet. And I think that's happened already. And we followed up by building early smartphones, building the early software download systems, putting GPS into the phones, making the phone into that thing that you really can't live your life without. And that's a vision that we've been pursuing. That's what built the company to where it is. And we had this idea before of getting global coverage. We built the Globalstar system. But there we made a mistake, because we didn't realize how powerful cellular was and how it was going to expand so rapidly. The thing that Sunil said, that he understood better than we did back then. But what we did do back then was we built all the technologies. And those technologies that we knew back then, well, they're just better now. They're faster, the lower cost, better performance. And that's what's going to make OneWeb so much more powerful. And the other key thing is that we're going to use it for backhaul in the sky. So instead of trying to sell a satellite terminal that competes with a cellular phone. We're going to sell a technology that provides the base stations and allows more coverage, and everybody can use those smartphones and tablets that have already been cost reduced because billions and billions of them have already been sold around the world. So that vision is really the vision that drives us, and what we're doing specifically, we're building the air links both directions. As I said, we've done some of this already. We have a little expertise in that. We're doing the reference designs for the ground terminals, and we are making sure that they will support not just Wi-Fi in the local area, but all the cellular communications, 3G and 4G and licensed and unlicensed bands, all those kinds of things. And then we're building the network, designing the network too, to make sure that people can get on their devices and get to the internet and get to the things that they really want to have access to. So one last thing I would say is that Qualcomm's a company, our values are innovation, execution, and partnership. And I can't think of a better group of partners to change the world with than this group. So I'm really excited by it, and look forward to seeing what's going to happen next. So thanks, everybody.
You think of the challenges that Qualcomm has overcome, and where we're taking a base station that you could literally put on a street corner in a not spot and drive your car by talking to the macro cell, hand over to the small base station for the 10 seconds, and then where you always drop your phone call at the corner of Main and Oak Street, or in a rural village where there's no connectivity because the coverage is shielded by a mountain or trees. Let users build their own coverage. Let them build their own networks and decide where they want connectivity. And they can actually extend the networks and be the friend of the mobile operators and the communication companies today, as opposed to anything that's challenging them. So back a while ago, I presented the vision to Richard, Sir Richard. And he got it very quickly. As a person who you all know, I won't do an introduction of substance, but his passion, vision, understanding spans all the markets, from the size of launch all the way to, obviously, airlines and communication companies, and just full circle, as well as being a wonderful supporter and mentor and help to the company in every way. So, Sir Richard Branson.
Well, it's great to be here today. Yeah, we used to have a record company called Virgin Records, and one of the artists that we had signed was such a good-looking young man that the girls used to throw their underwear onto the stage. And I hadn't seen him for a while. We sold the record company, and I was on Necker, and I came to the bar, and I saw him at the bar, and I went up to him, and I went, Tom Jones? Anyway, it was... anyway, it turned out that it wasn't actually Tom Jones, and he then spent the evening talking to me about satellites and not about music. But by the end of the evening, I got really excited. I mean, I've spent most of my time now starting not-for-profit ventures, and you know, this seemed to be the perfect venture, which combined, you know, all the merits of not-for-profit, but it was something that I felt, you know, we could raise the money for, and it could become a reality, and it could transform millions of lives around the world. And then Greg also said, well, you know, you also happen to be developing a space company, and you know, this you know, you can help us a lot. And he set out how our Launcher One program would be the perfect program to help him get the initial satellites to space. But he said, you know, even more importantly, because these satellites are going to drop out in 5 years' time, and they're going to be dropping out one at a time, and they need to be replaced within 24 hours. Virgin Galactic is the only organization that can just replace them at 24 hours notice, because you know, you can just send up your plane, drop the satellite, and replace them straight away. whereas with any of the other satellite launchers, we may have to wait up to a year to get them replaced. So anyway, it looked like the perfect marriage, and you know, was delighted to say that I would help see if we could get it off the ground. And then Paul Jacobs and ourselves got together as the sort of founding partners, and over the last few months have brought in some other incredible partners, and looking forward to a very, very exciting future. So thanks very much. It was a good drink at the bar. Cheers.
Thank you. It's the energy is fantastic for the mission. Again, we keep on coming back to that. We have to hold that true because this system can do a lot of things. What Virgin Galactic can do, in ability to launch something on a few hours' notice, has impact and repercussions across many industries. Our satellite manufacturing facility will have repercussion across the satellite industry. But I keep on coming back to connecting the schools. That's the indicator of success. There's a large chunk of our world, both in developed countries in the UK and in emerging markets, that has no access, that are effectively isolated, digitally isolated, if you will, from the rest of the world. And we're building a technology to solve that problem. And someone who's been inspiring and who has a passion for connecting, a passion for helping, is Will.i.am. And he's been a supporter and helping us understand the needs on the ground. We've talked about launching satellites. We've talked about manufacturing satellites. We've talked about our spectrum. We've talked about our funding. We've talked about being able to get it into aircraft around the world, being able to bring it to schools. We've talked about our distribution systems with Bharti Airtel and telecom companies and Hughes Networks and Intelsat and others. And now we get to the end user. How does it affect them? How can we make sure that they have that access? Will.i.am.
So I remember we were in Davos, and Greg mentioned to me OneWeb, very vague and brief, but the idea, as vague as it was that you were sharing with me at the time, I saw all the potential. And it was just a simple idea. We wanted to connect the world that has been neglected, and give them the opportunity to get up to speed. And that hit home because of what I've done in my life, taking the success of music, going back to the ghetto that I'm from, and getting the kids in my neighborhood up to speed, building robots, writing code. And in a way, we've been neglected. And we have high-speed internet in my ghetto, just not the skill sets. And there's places that are worse off than my ghetto, here in the UK and in the developing world. And I always saw, after I would leave our community, the after-school program, and seeing how we transform these kids' lives, how can we scale this activity? How can we take it to the places that really need it? Well, there's no way you're going to be able to take it to, areas in the Philippines or Sierra Leone without connectivity, right? There's no way to get these kids brought up to speed without high-speed internet. There's no way to give them the skill sets for tomorrow without connectivity today. So when you shared the vision with me, I wanted so much to be a part of it and do my best to corral a whole bunch of do-gooders to, aim their passion and their hearts towards these areas now that they're going to be connected. How do you take every single person that has a heart and a passion to bring everyone up to speed now that they're going to be connected? Because you need the connectivity first. And I thank you so much for allowing me to be here to talk about how I will commit all that I can to align myself with OneWeb and the mission and make it purposeful. I just came back from Davos. I'm not Davos. We were just at Cannes, Lions, and someone asked, "What is the future of marketing?" I said, well, marketing in the future doesn't fit. It's about communicating. Not just paying attention to the marketplace, but paying attention to the community. And what you're doing here with all these wonderful, powerful companies, community is first. It's making sure every single community is connected. And thank you so much. And I'm here to lend my passion and taking what I've already done in the ghetto that I'm from and scaling it. And we wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for this idea. And thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Robert Wall. I work for the Wall Street Journal. I had a couple of questions on funding. Given what you said before, the total project cost would likely be, how long does this funding that you have, the 500 million, roughly take you out to? And what fraction of the satellites can you get up with that? When do you expect to launch the first satellites, and with whom? And how many satellites do you need in orbit to actually start commercial service?
I'm going to do my best. The funding will last several years. It's part of a plan. We'll need one more round. It turns out that there's a lot of people who are interested in funding that we did not bring in this round. We made a $500 million decision, and we went with that. We'll also be having a debt equity structure like most normal companies, so we don't need the full amount of equity. In terms of timing, we've got our initial satellites going up in 2017. They will be production satellites. They may not be off the final assembly line, but they will be designed and built in exactly the same manner with all the capabilities of the satellites. You have to understand that these satellites, and I know everyone likes to talk about satellites because they're really cool, but these satellites are really telecom-class satellites with full redundancies and resiliencies built in for failure modes and things. So they're very high-performance satellites that have been highly integrated, much like you would a cell phone, where all the components are designed and pulled together into a tight package. In terms of the launch, obviously you've seen Virgin Galactic and you've seen Arianespace with the Soyuz. We have a launch campaign with the Soyuz for our bulk lift, and that will be going up on a continuous basis starting in 2018. We have 3 launch pads. Super important to have multiple launch pads. Things go wrong. Launch pads become unavailable for a whole variety of reasons, and we can't be stuck with a system of this size without the absolute reliability of knowing when we can launch it, that we can have a launch campaign, that we can sequence it time after time. Soyuz has done, or Arianespace has done some incredible things. I've worked with them before. They've done 2 launches on the same day, one from Baikonur and one from Guyana Space Center. These are unparalleled capabilities. And so we're very fortunate for Arianespace to have stepped forward a while ago and said, this is incredible, the mission's incredible, Kness and all the people behind us support this mission, want to see it happen. How can we help? And we put together that launch program and reserved. And now we have 21 launches. We need 18. The launches are, we have the slots are all reserved. The timing is set. It's now up to us to get the product into the launcher. There is a tremendous amount of technology that we actually have in terms of the satellites and the dispensers and how it will all work. So hopefully that answers your questions.
How many
So I haven't actually done the calculation of, because it varies, like you could have operational over Canada, but not operational over Papua New Guinea. So we have to think about the markets that we'd want to serve. It's sort of, because it's a polar orbit, it starts from the poles and comes down. So we will probably turn on early. Turns out there's a whole bunch of intermittent type access requirements that are really cool. Like, let's suppose you have the terminal on the school, and every 20 minutes the satellites pick it up, but they pick up all your email, and they download and cache. I'll give you an example of a really important part about our terminals and why this is not just, again, not just satellites. Those terminals sit on a school, and while they also project LTE, Wi-Fi, 3G, and 2G around them, they'll have a tremendous amount of cache on them, 512 gigabytes or a terabit of cache. And the government can put its local information, the entire school curriculum, videos, healthcare information, all available to everybody in the community to go with their tablets or to borrow tablets as the tablets become cheaper and cheaper and more available, to have access to the nutritional and important information for their lives as the governments and schools see fit. Almost like a continuously updatable newspaper. So absolute continuous during the 6 months or something while we're having a launch campaign. It's not crucial. You can still do a lot of good before that. We also have a great partner with Intelsat, where they're launching 8 high throughput geosatellites that we'll be partnering with. Will also give us some levels of connectivity for different things. So we'll be able to really get going even and make an impact and a difference even before we have the full system up and operational.
Thank you. Rahul Nasir from Northern and Southern African Wireless Communications magazines. I think, Paul, you were talking about technology companies and presentations talking about this is going to change the world. And I think one of the companies that had said that, this is a company, Greg, you may be familiar with, was an outfit called O3B. They were going to change the world, and suddenly it was about MEO satellites, which is going to solve the problems of connecting the unconnected. Now it looks like LEO HTS is going to be threatening MEO satellites. So is it time to forget all that? I know O3B are just plus minus 45 degrees over the equator, and you're a different proposition, but they were going to connect that other 3 billion. And if this is such a landmark, why aren't Intelsat, Hughes, all those other big satcoms guys, why did they never ever talk about MEO or LEO? Why are we doing this now?
Good question. So O3B, which stands for the other 3 billion, is a company which founded in 2007 and 2008. And we have O3B, which is up and running today, has 12 satellites. It provides services, trunking core services to telecom operators. It's not designed for direct-to-consumer. It's doing a fantastic job hooking up telecom operators around the world and providing services to them. This is a different system. This is direct to the school. This is an inexpensive terminal that you can place at the school with no tools. O3B has a different type of terminal. It's not worse, it's not bad, it's doing its job, it's doing an excellent job. And I'm a big supporter of O3B, and what they've done and what we've done and accomplished is tremendous. And if you go to the Cook Islands and you go to the Papua New Guinea and you talk to the users of O3B, the experience of the reduced latency has been fantastic. And they have a lot of videos on the website that show that. So MEO was a step, and it was personally a big step for me to take. I saw how that could be done, how we could get trunking and fiber quality access without having to run the fiber cables that were so expensive to telecoms around the world, and made a decision back in that time to say, okay, I'm going to take this step to go raise $1 billion. 1 foot in Africa, 1 foot in the States and with tech community. Let's see if I can join them and put the money into doing something that's really, really important. And I have nothing but positive statements about the success of O3B and the impact that they're having. It's a different impact, but it's an important impact. As much as you have highways and roads in the UK and every country of the world, you have different types of infrastructure for different things. And with OneWeb, when it became clear that the spectrum was available, that the technology could unlock that spectrum for this, that we could actually solve this mission, it's not me, it's not us, it's everybody's thing. It's this technology which almost feel like we're caring for and taking out to the communities because it has to happen. I don't know of any other technology or way to do this. I don't know how to connect all those schools by running fiber or cable or something to all of them. Cable's 4,000 pounds a kilometer on a telephone pole if you have it, which is fine if you have 100 houses within that kilometer, but as you go to 10 houses and then you go to one house at the end of the kilometer, and then that house is 10 kilometers away or the village is 10 kilometers away, and it's 40,000 pounds to connect that one person. We really need, this is a technology which bridges that gap. So it became something which we're, in effect, shepherding, which we're bringing out and we want to turn on and make live. So O3B is an absolutely important company and they're doing a fantastic job, but it's a different company that does a different thing on the infrastructure side.
The second part of my question is why haven't Intelsat and Hughes, VSAT Pioneer, why haven't you guys done this?
Yeah, maybe I can address that part. You know, Intelsat has a strategy in place to develop next generation high performance satellites called Intelsat Epic satellites, which start to launch next year. And this is the next generation of our fleet, which will address many of the same applications we're talking today, extending cellular networks into rural areas, mobility services for aeronautical, maritime, government services. But when we embarked on Intelsat Epic, we said at that time, we are going to keep our eyes open and embrace technological innovation as it comes along. We were going to bring the ecosystem into Intelsat Epic, and so we've made some investments in antenna technologies to help enhance that accessibility for our customers. And so when we saw this opportunity with OneWeb, it was very clear to us that it was complementary to our strategy with Intelsat Epic and our high throughput satellite. And so we see how these systems can interoperate together and that it can bring more value to the various verticals and customer sets that we're targeting. And it is complementary. We don't view it as a competitive situation. There is a huge amount of demand to address, and we're going to be able to do that together in this venture.
Thanks.
The demand will, I'm afraid, will outdo supply even after, after us and even after one or two other people. I mean, the demand out there is gigantic. And
Hi, Ed Ansel from Satellite Finance. I had two questions, really, mainly for Greg. One was to go from the earlier question about funding, and you talked about the debt side. Have you had any discussions with export credit agencies, i.e. with Airbus, with COFAS, about that kind of funding, a guarantee on that funding? I mean, it's what's done in a lot of satellite projects. I wondered if that's something you've done. And the second part was, you talked about the spectrum position, and we've spoken before about how important that is. SpaceX recently applied for experimental license for 2 satellites in the KU band, which would ostensibly be in your area under an FCC rule. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on that and whether it concerns you.
So, thanks. On the Exim Bank financing side, it's obviously an important part of all large-scale infrastructure projects. COFAS supported O3B and many other satellite ventures. We have had discussions with a number of Exim, export-import bank companies, and we've had very positive support for the project. I think one thing that they look at, and one thing that I've had to do and we've had to do, is we couldn't sort of imagine that technology would be developed and we'd build this great system. We had to have all of the pieces in place. You have to be able to demonstrate that everything can be built. So we're not coming to you and saying, hey, we're going to go invent some really cool stuff and just wait, watch, it's going to get invented. We're saying the technology to do this is here and ready and in process. We're now in the engineering phase of putting it together and executing on it. Not, gee whiz, we're going to go hope to build something and hopefully the invention comes together. And you need to do that for financing, and certainly for debt financing. The export-import banks have a conservative route to financing where they want to see exactly what's being built. They want to know it's being built. They want consultants to look through all that technology. And believe me, we have had our share of people and consultants vetting every aspect of our system. And hopefully, when you think about our system, you'll see that the pieces and the elements are in place and that it's extremely well thought out to the last detail to ensure that we can build something that's going to affect this kind of change. regarding spectrum, it's super important. The ITU has spectrum rules. They've been around for a long time, and we all live by them and follow them. The KU band, we have a priority position in the KU band, which is super important. And that priority position allows us to go and build our system, ensure that no one else will cause interference. And Intelsat has, I think, the largest number of geosatellites in the KU band. And interaction and interrelation with those is very important. We have quite a bit of technology to figure out how to not interfere with each other, and we have quite a bit of experience in doing this. O3B kind of pioneered a bunch of this back in the day. And so there's been a lot of thought about what's called EPFD and interference mitigation. So in terms of someone else saying that they want to do something in spectrum, whether it's experimental, which is just short term, can't speak to it, have no idea. We could go put up a cell tower in Barty's spectrum and say we're going to, and then but the spectrum rules are there, and they'll sort of work themselves out.
Tim Robinson, Aerospace Magazine. How is this not going to be another Iridium? I mean, you've got a major competitor there in SpaceX promising another mega constellation, and you've also got disruptive tech like lower cost pseudo-satellites, drones that Facebook, Google are now working on, including Tom's company as well is working on high-altitude drones. So how's it not going to, that not going to overtake it? And second question, if I can have a supplemental to Tom, what will be the biggest challenge in productionizing and ramping up the satellite production this quickly to get them out the door?
I'll start with. Well, as I said, this is really, for us in the satellite manufacturing, is a transformational project. I mean, I hate the word transformation because it's one of the most misused words nowadays, but it really is. If you manufacture complex satellites, 10 a year, when you go into mass production of 300 or 400 a year, it's a change. But we have knowledge in the company, we have it in the supply chain, it's very important. I mean, the logistical aspect, supply chain management is something that is usually underrated. And we've convinced ourselves, and Craig didn't let us much time to convince ourselves because he was pushing all the way that we can do that we can build up a production facility in time, that we can design the first satellites over in Europe, and then probably have a production in the United States, and that fits very well with our overall strategy as well.
I can probably take the Iridium question because we built Global Star, and this is the result of learning from those mistakes. Probably the key mistake we had was the channel conflict of trying to sell somebody a big satellite phone that you had to go outside to use and erect an antenna and all this stuff, and trying to sell that through the same channels, because we were working with cellular operators at the time also, against a smaller cell phone that was cheaper and had better coverage because you could use it indoor as well. So we decided this time the key way we're going to go about getting connectivity is backhaul in the sky. So we're not using the direct-to-consumer part of a cellular operator to sell this system. In fact, it's the network part of the cellular operator that's going to be deploying this system, and then people will use the existing terminals that they already have that have been, as I said earlier, cost reduced because they're sold by the billions. And I think that's really a critical difference here. And then beyond that, we have the fact that they figured out how to make the satellites much cheaper, and the launch is much cheaper, and the satellites are smaller and lighter, so you get more on the launcher, and then the performance of the signal processing and all those other things that Moore's Law has helped along will make a big difference. So there are fundamental shifts both in the technology, in the economics, and in the business model here that we learned from what we did wrong with the Global Star originally.
On things like balloons, can you hear me? Sorry. Balloons might work over cities, but I'm a balloonist, and I once took off from the south of Japan aiming for Los Angeles, and And the wind doesn't always go the way you want in a balloon. And I've missed Los Angeles by 3,500 miles and ended up in the Arctic. So, so balloon, at least we know with these satellites they're going to be in one place, and we're going to know where they're going to be aiming for. It's very brave, the whole ballooning project, but it's not necessarily going to be completely reliable.
And if I may, this is Richard, reminded me that I hadn't answered this pseudo-satellite thing, which is actually a UAV, a high-flying UAV, solar-powered, which we hope eventually can stay up for months. Right now we are at 2 weeks or so, which is remarkable. But these are local solutions, local plugs, so to say, which you can employ in case of need. But I can hardly imagine to have these pseudo-satellites, UAVs, distributed all over the globe. That's an entirely different operations, and certainly satellites are here much preferable and easier to deploy.
There are a lot of constellation ideas out there, and there have been for many years. We did invent the idea of constellations. We learned from everybody we could, and history and our own experiences. There are a number of constellations right now seeking funding and things, but constellations are just one piece of it, and that's what I try to show you. There's so much technology, so much deep and detailed thought and technology way outside the satellite realm in this, that satellites are just a piece of it. If you called Vodafone or Verizon, a microwave company, because they happen to have microwaves somewhere in their infrastructure. We have satellites in our infrastructure. We turn out we're a satellite company, but we're really a communications company. So I think for those other constellations and others that want to do things in the realm, if there's OneWeb, 2Web, 3Web, that's great. There's a huge amount of demand. If they can find their place and find their footing and figure out the way they want to do it, if drones want to fit in, if balloons want to fit in, come back to the mission. Enable affordable internet access for everyone. We want to connect all the schools. And if somebody else beats us to connecting those schools, then I say, job well done. That's what it's all about here.
Maybe one more question there. So two questions. One quick question each, and then most of the speakers are around afterwards, but if we can stop after that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Jonathan Amos from the BBC. Where's the investment in the UK here? I mean, Tom built his satellites in France and the United States. Richard's going to launch his rockets from the United States. I can see a lot of paperwork for the UK Space Agency in Swindon because they'll be effectively the launching state. But is there investment here in the UK, investment in people and things here in the UK, or are we just a flag of convenience?
So the UK has played an important role and will continue to play an important role, and there will be investment in the UK. People ask us a lot of times to announce and say things before we can really announce and say it. For months I've been asked about lots of details about launchers and everything else, and I can't say anything about what's happening because it's not the right time. You're under NDA, non-disclosure agreements with people, so you can't talk about it. But OneWeb will have a presence, and we've been working with a number of people in the UK to talk about that presence. And the UK is an important place because of it's a central point of business on a global basis. And so many people come here from all of the emerging markets, from all of our customer bases. They fly through here. It's easy to get to with Heathrow Airport. So where we're doing interconnection and with all the telcos around the world, the place that could be home base for making sure that all that happens, where people can meet, is the UK. And that lends itself to a tremendous opportunity for development of infrastructure here and development of engineering services and software services to ensure that this is the meeting point, right?
I was just going to say, Virgin Galactic is a British company. It employs quite a few British people. We're going to be hopefully replenishing most of the satellites as and when they fall out of the sky. We're putting up quite a lot of the initial satellites, we're an investor in, a founder investor in this company. So Britain has got a say in this.
And just to complement my colleagues, I mean, at Airbus we are manufacturing satellites primarily in France, Britain, Germany today. One of the most significant satellite expertise is indeed in the UK, by the way, also developing and manufacturing very small satellites, mini satellites. So in any case, there will be a significant part of participation here in the UK as well. And as I said, even the initial team that we brought together in the south of France, when we scratched our head and say, damn it, how do we fulfill Craig's mission, and how can we bring aeronautic and space expertise together, certainly entails colleagues and also expertise from the UK.
I asked this earlier because someone had asked me that. I think right now there's about 50,000 employees already in the UK with the companies. And I can't tell you exactly what OneWeb will do right now, but there will definitely be a presence of substance here in the UK as it makes the most sense.
Last question there, and then there will be an opportunity to talk to people afterwards. There's a room if people want to go, and then we'll bring the speaker back in there shortly.
Dan Thisdell from Flight International, Flight Global. How many satellites will you actually be able to deploy from a single Soyuz launch, from a single launcher, one flight? And have you actually booked an Ariane 6 flight?
So the number on the Soyuz is about 36 satellites per launch. What we've had to do, as I told you, is to show technology today, everything as it sits with that we can show to the consultants and the companies and all the engineers and say, here's the thing that's going to go in that satellite, add them up together, here's the mass, that's where we are now. We hope to improve upon that, although most people said, wow, that's really amazing, and Airbus has done a fantastic job in helping to pull these things together like that. So we hope to do more, but we have a base plan. In terms of Launcher 1, the answer is it will probably be somewhere between 1 and 3, depending upon the mission. And we'll see how, again, we're going to continue to shrink these things, just like Apple continues to shrink the MacBook. It's going to get smaller. These satellites are going to get smaller and smaller and more powerful on a continuous basis. And as far as we have options on the Ariane 6, I leave it to Tom to hurry up and finish it. But we'll certainly be using that as and when.